Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Tess Proos here, the President of South Africa, and I'm very pleased to have some wonderful people from our site community with us today. We have Joost de Meyer, who is the CEO of First Travel, First Incentive Travel, based in Florida. Also a former president of Site Global and international board member. Then we have Mr. Hugo Slimbroek from Belgium, also former president, wearing many hats, and the director of strategic partnerships for Ovation, with many offices around the world. And I'm sure, Hugo, you'll elaborate a bit about your business and how it's being affected in various parts of the continent. And then we have Mr. George Fauzi from Excel Travel, the CEO of Excel Travel based in Egypt, also with a very different perspective on how this pandemic has affected their region and their business. Joining us shortly will be Mr. Darryl Keywood, who is the CEO of Walters Travel, a South African-based DMC. What I'd like to do now is just go around the room and hear perspective and experiences from different parts of the world and how it's impacting what is happening at the moment. And if you look into your very murky crystal ball, where do you see it going in the next 2 to 3 months? So what I'd like to do is start with Joost, who is probably the furthest away from us time-wise at the moment, and it's early morning with you at the moment, Joost. So over to you. Please give us your perspective on what's happening your side.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tess, to take this initiative. As I said, I'm Dutch, 22 years in the USA already, and First Incentive Travel, we are the owners since 2000, and since a couple of years ago, we joined for our inbound travel, Liberty International, and have several offers for that company. So I have an inbound and an outbound perspective. Let's start with First Incentive Travel. We organize incentives for US corporate clients going outside the US, which is mostly for the short incentives, Caribbean and Mexico, and for the longer ones, it can be Europe or the rest of the world. We lost all the business, and we're looking now at postponing one of the major ones to next year. And the other ones are still waiting if they will survive as a company, because it are smaller companies. And if so, if they have the money to do an incentive trip next year. For Liberty, we have inbound business, and again, we lost all the business, and we have several offices in the United States. And so we also looking at postponing a couple of them to earliest November and next year. And I know in Europe, there's a lot of financial support by the governments in the different countries in Europe. In the United States, there's also some stimulus plans from the Trump government, but it's very difficult to apply for it. And we haven't heard since a couple of weeks what is happening. We had to not let go people, but we had them down in time, hours, and salary, and waiting for the government if we get support for the government. So it is a very difficult situation. The only thing is the time we have now is prepare for the future, which will be different than in the past, with new proposals, new ideas, how we can organize incentives in our inbound business.
Thank you, Joost. Yeah, indeed, I think many of us are experiencing exactly that situation. Can you maybe give us an overview of what is happening in your state in terms of restrictions with travel and events, as opposed to the rest of the country?
Yeah, because we have so many states with governors, and although the federal government is overlooking the whole USA, they sometimes say we are responsible, sometimes they say the states are responsible. So it depends a little bit which kind of government you have in the states and for which political party, because the ones who have a Republic governor follow more the leads from the Trump government than the ones like in New York or in California, where they have power themselves to have restrictions. So you see that the country is slowly opening, but it depends in which part of the US you're based. And this morning I heard that we have more than 71,000 deaths in the United States and 1.3 million cases, and it will go up because the restrictions are going down. For example, in restaurants, you can only have 25% occupancy, and something like barbershop, nail shops, etc., are not open in every part of the US. So it is a strange country because you have so many states that have different rules than the other ones. And again, it also depends on the help of the government, because the states have different rules for when you lay off people or furlough people. So it is a very difficult situation to find out how to handle that kind of requests.
Thanks, Joost. Final question your way. I heard that the airlines are not all grounded, and that some are voluntary grounding flights, but that there is still travel or interstate travel. Is that the case, or are there further restrictions on your travel?
That's correct. There are still airlines flying domestic flights. A couple of days ago, I heard that one day, which was a normal day for 2 million passengers, that they only flew 170,000 guests that day. So about 96% is not flying. I know that United tries to open again July 1st, and other international big like American, United and Delta, they're looking of starting to fly again, but a very, very small amount of routes. For example, United canceled 32 of their routes internationally. So for example, from Amsterdam, we had 5 flights a day to the US, and there's only now 1 starting in July. So it's very different, but there will be a lot of restrictions when you fly. The middle seats on the aircrafts are blocked. So we have to see how many seats are available when the summer starts.
Absolutely. Thank you for that input, Joost. A very interesting glimpse on what's happening in the US at the moment, and in particular in Florida, where they are based. I'd like to jump over to Africa, to George in Egypt. George, I recall when this whole thing started, there were great concerns with Egypt, but judging by the numbers, it hasn't spiraled as badly as one would have expected. Has that had any impact positively or negatively on tourism, or maybe you can just give us an overview of your situation? Thank you. You're on mute, George.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the introduction. The situation in Egypt is not that bad. The numbers are still reasonable in the numbers. I mean, what we had as death could be 500 or 570, all in all. People who are affected, we're talking about 5,000, all in the country. We are talking of population of 105 million. The reason, I think it's the very warm weather we are having right now. This could be one of the reasons, but I'm not sure. But affecting the tourism, yes, we have been affected badly. We do inbound, we do corporate. We are the first largest company doing corporate travel here in Egypt. And the business is zero. I mean, corporate, we're dealing with almost 400 or 500 different companies. None of them is doing any activities. I'm talking local. Internationally, I'm talking for the MICE business into Egypt. There is nothing categorically. For the leisure, we do a lot of FIT of different scales. Again, nothing. Egypt Air or most of the airlines, they're not flying into Egypt. The airport is closed. I'm a member of the Egyptian Travel Agent Association, the board member, and we had a meeting yesterday, coincidentally, with the minister. They are planning to open the hotels starting May 15 for the local people here with an average of 25% occupancy. That's it. And with lots of restrictions related to the hygiene and what to be done, what not to be done, in order to make sure everything goes in the right direction when it comes to not to spread the coronavirus. Internationally, The expectation, according to the board and our meeting yesterday with the minister, it's by not before July or August. By all means, we are not expecting business. We're having one inspection trip from Brazil during the month of August, on the 14th of August. This is the first inspection we'll have for an incentive group coming in November. Still ongoing. We have inquiries for FIT leisures during the last part of the year. So by November and December, we start getting inquiries, requests, or some people that postponed from March, April, they postponed it till November and December. So there is all our speculation. I mean, we are expecting that we are going to get business. We have confirmation, we give confirmation, they confirm to us, but whether it's going to realize or not, I'm not sure of it. My assessment, by September, business will start to move slowly. During Christmas and New Year, we are expecting business, not like it used to be. I'm talking here leisure. The MICE, of course, it would be during November. As I mentioned, we have one group coming in November. Up till now, it's confirmed. So we'll see how it will happen. Egypt Air, they're planning to open 162 destinations by mid-July. So all these are talks, communication, expectations, speculations, but something sure, no, I can't say there is anything which is sure at this point in time.
Of course, indeed. George, on the you mentioned that Egypt Air is grounded at the moment. Are any of your borders open, or are you also in full lockdown at the moment?
No, it's locked down. I mean, it's people are not flying, and I mean, they send Egypt Air is sending their flights to pick up Egyptians leaving the different part of the world. But when they come, they go to quarantine for 14 days, but not open for anybody and everybody.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And they want to do it. They want to open it, as I mentioned, by July, mid-July. That's what they want. But we'll see. We'll see what will happen.
Sure. In terms of the hygiene and health protocols, has any properties or venues established those yet that can be shared, or are they still working on it?
They are. The announcement went out this morning because after our meeting yesterday with the minister, and it has to be applied. It has to be applied among all the hotels with no exception, and there would be inspections by the ministry to make sure that this is applicable. Among them, for example, only 25% to start for 1 month occupancy, and then it will go to 50%, and that's it. For 3 months, they will allow to have the occupancy 50%. No open buffet, it will be only a la carte. All the luggages to be isolated or checked during the check-in and check-out. All the stuff are going to be checked in the hotels. Laundry and all this, it's going to go through a different procedure right now. And this will be, and it has been announced this morning, as a matter of fact, and circulated among all the hotels. Of course, some of the hotels don't want to open because 25% will not cover their expenses.
Right.
So it's up to each hotel to decide. Some of the 5-star hotels, like the Marriott or the Mina House, which is in front of the pyramid, it's closed down. Some of the hotel, the Oberoi, is closed down till July. The Marriott the Marriott Mina House till June. Some of the hotels are still operating business as usual. The Four Seasons is operating business as usual. The Kempinski, Ritz-Carlton, but others are not. So it depends from one hotel to another, one property to another.
Okay. Final question your way. I recall you said during a previous discussion you were not getting any government support financially whatsoever. Has that changed?
No, it didn't change. Nothing has changed. There is no government support. The only thing is for the tax, when paying the taxes, because at this time of the year, tax, instead of paying it by April 30th, they gave us the possibility to pay us until June 30th. But that's it. That's the only support. Staff-wise, nothing. We didn't get anything. So we carry a big company, big large structure, 300 people, different departments, and all this. And of course, we had to reduce salaries by 30% across the board. Hopefully, we don't do more than that. I mean, we're not sure. It's still it's vague. It's not sure what will it's coming next.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I said recently, what's gospel today is rubbish tomorrow. So it's really hard to plan and work forward. Thanks for sharing, George. So I'd like to hand over to Hugo now. Hugo, I'm sure you have a big story to tell us because you've got kind of roots all over the globe. So over to you.
Thank you, Tess. After all this bad news, I must come with some good news.
Yay.
Because the situation is shitty all over the world. Everybody's in the same situation. Some governments are more supportive than others. In Europe, it's primarily the workers that are protected. So staff that has been put on minimum wages still get salary paid from the government and so forth. But employers, people working as self-employers, they are not covered, so they are taking the big hit for the moment, and the same goes for the companies, of course. I wrote an article last week, you can see it on my LinkedIn. I called it The Morning After the Night Before, and it has nothing to do with drinking. But I looked at the situation in like three phases. There's the first phase, and I think we are still in the first phase, where we're in a situation where everybody is in the same situation, and we can complain to each other how bad it is, and but that's not going to change anything. The only thing that we can do now, I believe, from a positive standpoint, is to connect with our people, the people that we work with, our partners, our clients. Everybody's sitting bored at home for the moment. They're trying to find something to do. Well, this is the time that we should use to really connect with them, reconnect with them, and come with personal stories. I mean, we don't need to do the big budget stories now. What the deposit hasn't arrived or whatever. We can talk human to human, and I think we have an excellent opportunity in these months and still months to come to reconnect with our clients, to listen to them, to share with them, to share personal stories, to show empathy, and so forth. I think that's one thing that we should do. Secondly, internally, we are in the period that we can review all the stuff that we had to do for a long time, but we haven't found time to do it. And I think most of the companies have been looking at all their standard operating procedures, contracting, everything. We now have time, and we have had time to review this, apply new necessary changes that we need. If we thought that GDPR was bad, we find out now that there's much more stuff that we should apply to our contracts and so forth. So it's an opportunity to look at standard operating procedures, at legal stuff that normally we do not always find time for, and we do not concentrate on that. So that's one thing. But also look at, for instance, from the DMC perspective, look at our proposals. What do we have to offer? Should we do this differently? Should we revamp some of our presentations, rewrite some of our texts, reissue documents with new pictures, updated pictures, more lively pictures, and so forth? So there's lots of positive stuff that you can do in this period. I do not sit around turning my thumbs for the whole day. I'm actually as busy as I normally am, and I'm not traveling. So that's a big change for me, because I'm spending a lot of time on the road. But that's all in period one, I would say, and I think this will continue till September, October. By the time governments release possibilities to travel by air, opening hotels and so forth, we're 3 months down the road. And in our industry, meetings and events, we still need then another 3 months of lead time, I believe. So I do not think that there will be a massive change between now and 6 months from now. As George said, we also have some businesses that have been booked or have been rescheduled to November and December, and let's very much hope that that they will happen. We do receive RFPs for the moment. Funny enough, the RFPs that I have received, and I'm receiving our global mailbox stuff from all over the world, but what seems to start to kick off again is Asia and Latin America. In fact,
Okay.
last week was like Latin America week. I had several RFPs going into that direction. So maybe there's some opportunities there. And then we will come in the second phase. In the second phase, we will all be battered. The second phase, we will all be wounded. And we will need to have a lot of empathy and flexibility with our clients and with our partners. I don't call them suppliers, I would call them partners. The people that we work with, to find new ways of working together and to find new business models. Because I do believe that a lot of what we do in our industry, we will have to change the business model of how we're doing it. We are moving into a new world, something that we do not know yet what it's going to be. And I'm sure that we will not be able to do our jobs exactly the same way as we did them the day before yesterday. So that's the second point. So a lot of reassurance for meeting planners and for meeting planners clients. So in the third box thinking, they're corporate clients. A lot of relaxation and make clients feel at ease. I think we will need to do that. And then really by the beginning of next year, Q1 and Q2, there I think that the business will slightly start coming back again. But again, under a new model and in the new models of communication and of working together. So will the DMC model, because that's the world I'm working in, will it still be the same after this? I do not think so. It will definitely change. On the other hand, it will not go away, because the feeling that you get now is that everybody is really longing for this face-to-face again, for this meeting again. The moment that people start meeting again, they will need us. They will need us. And I participated in a lot of meetings and seminars online and conferences. But one struck me in the beginning of this period. There's one that I did on event design. I think there's a huge role for the DMC in the event design, and normally they do not ask us. A corporate client will start working on a program with an agent, not involving the DMC. The DMC comes like at the end of the picking line. But I believe that you will much more see collaborative approaches throughout the whole cycle, from corporate client with agency and the DMC, because the DMC has the local solutions, and they need to be in the beginning of the process, the beginning of the event design, as one of the partners, and not be seen as a supplier. So we need to profile ourselves as solution bringers and not just as suppliers on site for restaurants and excursions and whatever.
Thank you, Hugo. That's indeed some great insights, and I really like your idea of the DMC being part and parcel of the solution rather than just being a supplier. And good news that you're getting those RFPs from Asia and Latin America. Interesting scenario.
To Asia.
To Asia, right? Okay, that's really amazing. But I also hear what you're saying in terms of people might be nervous to get on a plane for the time being. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, even if the skies open up, how many people are going to jump on a plane and fly somewhere. Of course, you do get the hardened travelers who just, they want to get on a plane and go. And I totally agree that we all social creatures, you know, we do want that human connection. And I think the
Yeah, but
sooner
it's
that occurs, the
the
better.
companies that will not take the decision for their audiences, for their staff, and for their channel partners. They cannot take that because there's a security issue there.
Absolutely.
And that's the I think the worst thing in our segment is that they will not take the decision. They will be afraid to take the decision unless our industry can prove to them that they and reassure them that everything will work and can work.
Absolutely. I think that's why those hygiene and health protocols are so vitally important. In the absence of Daryl, I suspect he's got some technical difficulties, which is why he's not able to join us. So in his absence, I'm just going to give you a quick overview on what's happening in South Africa. You may have heard that we've scaled down from, well, our government has called it from a level 5 to a level 1, level 5 being the worst. So as of the 1st of May, we're now on a level 4, where certain activities such as ordering takeout food, but only for delivery. You cannot go and collect it or have the meal in a restaurant. Those sort of activities have started reopening, but still no gatherings, no cigarettes, no alcohol. And I feel sorry for a lot of people out there. I have no idea why the government has made the decision. I'm sure there's more frustration because of those bans rather than anything else. Our Minister of Tourism announced last week that we will probably not see tourism, and that's local tourism, resuming until early December this year, which is a bit of a blow. And we hope that's their worst case scenario, that things will improve much quicker than that. There is business funding relief programs out there, but they are terribly confusing and very limiting in terms of access. For instance, like an unemployment fund, we have, from our point of view, applied 3 times already, and it either gets rejected for crazy reasons or we just don't hear from them. So a lot of frustration out there in terms of relief funding. And of course, if you imagine companies like ours, restaurants, hotels, guest houses, not working and not having an income for at least 6 to 8 months, how many are going to come out on the other side? Probably not many. Also, our borders are all closed and will be for the foreseeable future. So from a different perspective, wearing my Site Africa hat, we are working on regional workshops. Very interesting that apart from South Africa, where the figures are not staggering yet, the rest of Africa doesn't seem too badly affected. And I just hope that it's not because there's a lack of testing or anything else, but Africa really seems to be a bit more resilient. So we are looking at promoting intra-Africa travel as soon as it's viable in terms of, flattening of the curve, and until we found a vaccine, that's going to take years. But I think there's great opportunity for travel within Africa. And Hugo, I'm not sure if you would like to jump in there. I know you have some offices in Africa. Do you have a take for us on that?
Well, we have the same thing. We have some projects in South Africa that have been put on hold or have been rescheduled to December as well, or Q1 and Q2 next year. But in the short term, there's nothing happening. We've had projects for large financial companies all over Africa. Everything has been put forward for 1 year. They just said, "Okay, let's forget 2021. Let's reschedule for 2022." They're even going that far. So that's one thing. What I said in the beginning is that we have time to reflect. I think we have approved now as well that being a member of an association like SITE or PCMA or ICA or so forth is proving really membership value for the moment. I've spent a lot of time in online seminars, reading the blogs, learning from peers, and I think a lot of the membership value that we're getting from SITE is coming that way as well. And I think that's again underwriting the importance of being a member of a society like SITE.
Sure. Sure. In fact, that's something else I was going to mention to you shortly, is that in South Africa, all the associations have now formed a coalition. We're simply calling it the South African Events Council, trying to help the industry, especially the smaller guys out there, lobby with government for better support and all sorts of other support systems that's desperately needed out there. Including education. This right now is a great time to do training and update your systems, as you say, Hugo. Go back to the drawing board and see how we can do things better. But that's all in a nutshell. But the same as everybody else, our inbound, certainly we probably won't see anything till early next year. The big question is when will airlines be allowed to fly internationally again? The good news there is that Africa has started resuming some flights in certain regions. I think East Africa certainly has an opportunity to rebound faster than the rest. So it's a case of watch the space. I recently had some similar chats to some PCOs in Addis Ababa, Rwanda, and also Nina from South Africa and head of ICA. And there's a positive sentiment out there. I think our industry is resilient. The people who work in the industry are resilient. So they'll hopefully make things work and help push the ball forward. But on that note, let me redirect to Joost. Any further input from your side?
Yes, one of the things is I think we have to make sure that we had a great team, and we have a great team, and now they furloughed, or they are down in salary. So to maintain the team you had is very important. So that's why we have a weekly Friday Zoom event where we have a game together. But on the other hand, training is very important. So we give the people the possibility on our expenses to go and have the CIS certification. Also, the Florida Atlantic University has a free certificate for meetings and events, and more than 77,000 people applied for that. The first round is over. The whole team in our company did the certification. So it is so important to keep on learning and try to get education. So I was a little bit surprised that SAI didn't lower the price for the CIS in these circumstances, because it is an ideal opportunity to have your staff trained for the entry level of site. And I don't know, yeah. Hugo, was that discussed within the past presidents or with site headquarters to lower the price for the CIS online?
Not that I know of. I think that's a question that you should address to DDA.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you are going to address that with DDA, fantastic. I do know that they've offered some of the basic training programs for members free of charge, as well as the entry level, the introduction to CITP, which we have sent out. We don't have that many members around Africa, so we really need to work on that. It was all part of our strategic plan, which was launched at Meetings Africa. I think, Hugo, you were there. Yeah. So we have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Not too much, but it has to be adjusted. And I think everybody's still reeling with a bit of shock with what's happening in the industry. And to get people to now pay attention to new memberships, etc., when money and cash flow is a question mark, it's a little bit more difficult. But we're still certainly trying to keep the momentum going. So I think and I hope that our workshops, which will be rolled out from the end of May, latest early June, will have some positive impact, because apart from brainstorming our industry on the continent, it will also have a nice level of mentorship and training. But as I said, watch that space. We're busy drafting it at the moment, and we'll hopefully have something ready by the end of next week. And George, you'll obviously be involved in that as well. So, George, any further input from your side?
I just have a question. Is South African Airways went bust, or I was reading different mixed information about South African Airways. I just want to know exactly where it's standing.
By all intents and purposes, it has gone bust, but not officially so yet. They have approached what they refer to as an international aviation company. Whether it's an airline or something else, we're not sure. They said we'll know by Friday, but Friday is the deadline for SAA staff to sign the termination agreement. So if effectively more than 4,000 staff will be terminated by SAA, and a new airline will be formed. But now there is still talk of possibly bailing out South African Airways. So honestly, we don't know, but by all indications, SAA may no longer exist. But from what I gather, the plan is for the new airline, whomever they are, to take over the existing South African Airways routes.
But those problems existed before the whole
yeah.
COVID. I remember my first flight that I booked to come to Meetings Africa was scheduled to go from Munich, and actually they cancelled the flights to Munich already before. So
Yeah.
It's not the only airline. I think every airline has the same problems all over the world. So it's
Yes.
definitely going to be some corpses there, but I think it's a global issue as well. It's not purely a South African issue.
Sure.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Tess.
No problem.
I mean, I want to hear, I mean, when you think that businesses will start to move really worldwide when it comes to leisure or MICE business, is it September? Is it October? Is it next year? I mean, we are from different part of the world, and each one has a different angle of thinking. So what's your assessment, each one of us in this meeting, about business in general? Of course, there is no crystal ball when business will come, but for sure everybody has some kind of idea or worst scenario, let's put it this way.
Hugo, shall we start with you?
I think when the vaccine will be on the market, I think that's the ultimate solution. The moment that they have a vaccine in the market, that's the safest point. Until that happens, so they're working on it. There's a few companies working on vaccines, including here 2 companies in Belgium, close to where we live here. But unless that is on the market, I think we will not have a dramatic change. So I do not see any major improvements of our sector, business meetings on the ground, incentives on the ground before Q1 next year, and that's really the earliest I would hope for.
Thanks, Hugo. Joost, a different perspective from your part of the world?
No, I agree with Hugo that we have to have a vaccine, and also in the US they're working very, very hard. It is pushed by the Trump government as well. I think because Trump is so focused on getting the business going again, with now more than 20 million people out of business. I think the domestic travel in the US will start first. And then I don't think it will happen before Q1, Q2 that you get international incentives because we concentrate on the MICE market. So, but domestic will start first in the US, and it is a great big country. So we are happy with everything we get from domestic clients. But for international, Q1, Q2.
I'm inclined to agree with Hugo and Joost. You know, especially if you look at how badly things have flared up in the US, unless a vaccine has been created sooner rather than later, I doubt we'll see global international travel resume fully before early next year, if we're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So not a great picture altogether, but that's our reality for the moment. And gentlemen, you're more than welcome to redirect questions at each other, as George has just done. So, George, anything else from your side?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, great. It really is a pity that Daryl couldn't join us today. So I think let's have some parting words from everybody, and then we can all carry on with business as usual.
Sure,
Okay.
Thank you.
So shall we start with you, Hugo?
With me?
Always.
Well, actually, I need to.
I think I've been waiting for this.
Oh wow. You always get surprises from Hugo.
Always.
Yeah. You know, everybody has to wear a mask. I decided that this is my preferred mask
Oh, wow.
because you can drink with it.
Ah, good point. Not like mine that I wear on my Facebook skits. Oh, that's great. Now, I was actually just going to say, Hugo, we haven't had a joke yet, and then you popped out with your funny chirp. Well, thank you for that. Thanks
No.
for your time. Thanks for sharing your experience and your insights. George, any parting words from you?
No, nothing special really. It's just only no,
No,
nothing
but
special.
thank you for taking the time. I know it's early evening your side already. We really appreciate you joining us.
No, that's fine. It's a pleasure, really.
Lovely, lovely. And Joost, from you finally?
Yeah, I'm always positive. So there will be a light in the tunnel, and I think we have to take care of our present staff, but especially look at the future leaders of our industry that they have also a bright future themselves.
Wonderful.
And when we see smart things, when we see interesting articles, I share them on LinkedIn. I share them on Facebook and Twitter as well. Let's all do this because we can all learn from each other here.
Definitely. And on that note, I actually shared a message that I received from Rwanda's president, Mr. Paul Kagame, earlier. And even though he was slapping Africa in general on the wrist, that man always comes out with the most amazing positive notes. And I really appreciate him for the human being that he is and for the messages that he kind of conveys to the world. And I really think he's one of the greatest leaders of our time, apart from our own Nelson Mandela, of course. And I really think Paul Kagame is an incredible human being. So on that note, gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us, and we shall touch base with you in the very near future, hopefully with some better news next time.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For your
Bye
time.
bye.
Hugo, Juice. Yeah, that's okay. Bye bye.